Hi, everyone, and welcome to Mortgage Magnates and University's latest and virtual fireside chat. We're really excited to have you here. I'm Chris Baker, President and CEO of Mortgage Magnates, and your host for this fireside chat today, which again stays virtual because we are self-isolating, but we are thrilled to have our next guest on today. He is actually a world-renowned keynote speaker, and he's really excited to bring his message to you, the members of Mortgage Magnates today. Ryan has been recognized as one of the best keynote speakers ever heard by Meetings and Conventions magazine. His presentations include original research and customized insight for each audience that he faces. He inspires audiences with practical insight, plenty of energy, which I have seen in person, and relevant stories that resonate long after the meeting ends. His writing has actually been featured in Forbes magazine, in Entrepreneur magazine, and in Fast Company. He's actually had times to speak with huge companies like MasterCard, MassMutual, AT&T, the NBA, Ernst & Young, Lowe's, Prudential, and so many more. Let's look at a little intro of Ryan Estis before we get started.
Thank you. They're switched on. From the moment they get up, they're ready to go. They're ready to compete. They're in the right frame of mind. They're going to have a great day. They're switched on. I love that. They're switched on. Remember who you are. Market leader, category leader, employee-owned, 75-year history, a company that's investing abundantly into sales skill, execution, and your competency and talent so you can go out and kick ass and take names. That's your competitive advantage.
When I speak at a conference, a big focus of mine is when you have to give people specific, actionable content that they can put into practice immediately to change, to make a difference, to move forward, to accelerate success.
Your biggest breakthrough moment in business is typically found one step outside of your comfort zone. And it's the idea to have a little bit of appetite for discomfort and uncertainty. To welcome the unknown. Because look, when you're changing, you're embracing new technology, you're business planning, you're adding to staff, you're leveraging social tech. You might be out of your comfort zone. That means you're learning, growing, getting better. When you get better, nobody can take that from you. How many of you have purchased a beverage from Starbucks once in the last year? Keep your hand up. Did you see what just happened? I just proved unequivocally that 95% of the coffee drinkers in this room consume coffee without any regard to price whatsoever. You can make a grande skinny vanilla latte at home for 26 cents. They are separating you from $5. That is not rational behavior, even if you're hungover. And they know this. They know something that it's important for you to know as you scale your business. Customers do not buy on price. Your customers do not buy on price. They will default to price in the absence of value and a quality experience. And that, yep, you can give it up for that. There you go. Value sellers in the room. You have to create an identity, a standard of excellence, a process that's unique to you, centered around the customer that you can execute on consistently. I'm going to show you mine. This is what we call the Ryan Estis experience. 6 steps. When a client's interested in hiring us, we'll walk them through these steps. Immediately that creates differentiation because most people don't have a branded identity or an experience. It's not just one phone call. We have a process. And I'll tell you, we'll go as far as we want to talk to 10 people that are going to be in your audience. I know what you're telling me, and I believe it's true, but I want to get another perspective, and another perspective, and another perspective. And when I walk on the stage with that body of knowledge and that research, my confidence is up here. And that I can deliver exactly what you talked about. Relevant, actionable insight that moves the needle on their business because I know, because I've committed to the process. I don't mean to pick on the millennials. Well, I do a little bit. See, my generation was only half your size. No one paid attention to what the hell we wanted. So now all the Xers are disgruntled, right? And I will tell you, when we talk about this particular topic, one of the misconceptions is that the massive conflict is occurring between the boomers and the millennials. And that's not necessarily the case. There is a significant conflict between my generation and the next generation because I was at my desk for 7 years in a suit and tie, 5 days a week at 7:45 before I ever thought about asking for a promotion. And you want what? And it's hard for us now that we're in a management or a leadership role to get our minds around that shift. But we better, because today they are 26% of our workforce, and by 2020, they will be almost half. How many of you have worked or been mentored or coached or counseled by someone that really made an imprint on your life to help you become the entrepreneur you are today? Show of hands. Yeah, I mean the vast majority of the room. So we know this intuitively, but sometimes we forget the impact we have on people. And I'll give you 2 questions that'll help elevate that awareness. And these are they're great leadership, owner, self-assessment questions. I use them every day. And the first one is, who did I impact today? Ownership is about impact. You can ask that question both inside your business and outside. And then the second one, how will I be remembered by the people I worked with today? You know, when I asked, who's worked for an extraordinary leader, somebody that changed your life, made an impact, every hand went up. So you've had that experience. Now I'm going to challenge you for just a second. Who sitting in a room like this would put you on their list? And what gift are you giving away each and every day? That's leadership. It's humility, sacrifice, service, putting other people in a position to be the very best they're capable of becoming.
You know, the experience or the work I do, it's not about me. It's about unpacking an idea and insight that helps somebody else change and transform it. I think that's a big part of the work that I do.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ryan Estis. Ryan, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Thanks for joining us, Ryan. I really do appreciate it. And for viewers who have not seen you speak before, could you kind of give us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background and how you got into this, but where you came from before?
Yeah, my background's in advertising and communications. So I grew up on the sales and account side of that business, worked my way up into the sales organization. And basically we were calling on enterprise clients, helping them tell their story, capture share of market. In the last 4 years, I was with that company. I was the chief strategy officer. So responsible for our go-to-market strategy, oversight for business development. And in that job, I started doing a little bit of speaking and just in the industry, really to promote our business and brand. I got good at it and started to look forward to those days a little bit more. And then when the world collapsed in 2008, 2009, I had the bright idea to make my move, and I did. So in January 2009, I left the ad agency and started my own business right here at the kitchen in the middle of the financial crisis. So, and I've never looked back. So we're doing about 80 live events a year annually. And obviously today, a lot of those events are converting to virtual engagements, but pretty focused on leadership excellence and sales growth. Those are our 2 lanes.
That's awesome. And I think that's even just already an inspiring message for our newer agents and brokers out there who, you started a business that was in a financial crisis at the time when you started it. And I think a lot of our newer agents are kind of experiencing that now too. Maybe they got into this about 3 months ago, 6 months ago, could not have predicted this, and have maybe even left a job of $70,000 a year or something to pursue the dream of self-employment. And all of a sudden, here we are. And so I'd love to bring out some of your passion for sales, and even just the leadership message to direct it at some of them, and for brokers that have never seen this before. I mean, there's people that have obviously been in this 30 years, haven't seen anything like this, right? Other than maybe the financial crisis. So
Yeah.
you have views on passion on purpose. This is kind of your session you have. Let's talk a little bit about that, because that obviously has impacted a lot of people. You had a pouring happiness video on Goalcast that got 63 million views on Facebook. You tell a great story in that. Talk to us a bit about passion on purpose and why you believe that that's kind of the key to business success.
Well, I think part of it's it's mindset and process discipline, right? It's like why are you doing something? And I left a really good job in the middle of the Great Recession, and while there are differences in this crisis, I think what's unique about a crisis is that it is unprecedented. We had never had the Great Recession until we had it. We had never had something like coronavirus or a pandemic, and now it's here. And I think a big part of success is just mindset. I mean, you look back on 2008, 2009, there were winners and losers. And I always say this, the Great Recession was my greatest gift, because as challenging as that moment in time was in the world, it forced me to confront myself, look inside myself, and answer big questions. Who did I want to be? How was I going to show up and serve? How much did this matter to me? How much did I care about this opportunity and really pursuing it and turning it into something? And there will be another side to this. We're going to arrive into a growth cycle again, but how you arrive, how I arrive, will be largely based on the decisions we make and the action we take today. So if you're new to this, you got into this a few months ago, it'd probably be worth taking a blank sheet of paper and writing down why and how important are those things to you. And where do you want to be 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 2 years from now? I didn't want to take a pause and wait for the recession to pass until everything was good again. I wanted to start at the bottom, and then when everything got good again, I wanted to be relevant. And that's exactly what happened to me. Starting at the bottom, it was the best training ground for me, because if you can make it now, you can thrive anytime. So it's not necessarily the worst time in the world to have started anything. I actually think there's going to be real opportunity and growth through this.
Yeah, I do too. I think there's tremendous opportunity, and especially if you take the right path moving forward, right? And approach this in the right way with the right mindset, and meeting customers where they are, which is different than it ever has been before. That's a big topic of yours, is meeting customers where they are. How do you foresee what that means? You've spoken on this years ago. I saw the video on your website, kind of along the same lines. Where will people be in 2020, and meeting customers where they are? What do you think that means today in this type of world?
Well, look, I mean, the world got turned upside down, right? So I actually think this is a time maybe particularly for salespeople, and we're approaching it this way. It's like, hit the pause button, just kind of look around and ask ourselves, instead of focusing on how we can be successful, how can we be helpful? Right? Where can we show up and serve? Because right now, where are people? Where are customers? Overwhelmed, anxious, afraid, feeling a high degree of uncertainty, sheltering at home, navigating the perhaps economic and psychological impact of a pandemic, going through something we've never gone through before. So, as experts, as agents, as servants, how can we show up and support people through a time like that? And for us, that ultimately is the big question. It's the driver. And it can be as simple as checking in, lending a little bit of support, asking how you could help. I think expertise and guidance. I always say the best salespeople are teachers, right? They become domain experts, and then they can convey information in a way that helps elevate a buyer's confidence in making the right decision. I think there's certainly an opportunity for that right now. And then just acts of service, look around and see where you can pitch in and help. Something even as simple as a Zoom call like this. If there's an opportunity to contribute value, take it.
I think that's so true. And it's funny because It's not that people wouldn't do something like that before, wouldn't contribute a little bit before, build their brand a little bit that way, although it's not about building the brand when you're doing these helpful things, but it essentially does. And that's kind of where you get into that conversation about adapting and thriving in a new environment. And you talk a lot about this, adapt and thrive. If you could talk a little bit more about what you think that means for now. So now a mortgage broker goes and does exactly what you say. They get out there and they give back a little bit more. And how do they adapt and thrive to what that reality is now going to be?
Well, I think you have to pay attention. And, something that I always say is you got to get out of your comfort zone and stay in the learning lane. Learning agility is so important. So how do you make a decision when you don't know what to do next? And the idea is you assess, decide, and update. So in my business, we're conducting experiments, right? We're reaching out, we're connecting with clients, we're asking intelligent questions, and we're trying some things. And so I think, conducting a few experiments, trying to kind of disrupt yourself. I always say disrupt yourself before the marketplace or competition does it for you. Well, guess what? The world did it for us. This is really a time of disruption that can also be a time of reinvention. So I think for us, we're finding additional opportunities to insert ourselves in a relevant and meaning way, contribute value, and ultimately evolve our relationship. And part of that has been investing. So it's easy during a time like this to develop what I call a contraction mindset, right? It's overwhelming. It's scary. Hey, I was about to do 80 live events this year. We're not going to do any. Right. So it would be easy for me to shrink and say, oh my gosh, I have to get through this and survive. But I'm, in my mind, like, no, how can we expand and double down and produce twice as much content and contribute more often and find new audiences and so that's what we've been doing. I mean, right after, this call, I've got a call with my marketing team, and we're talking about how we can absolutely increase the amount of content we're contributing to the conversation. So that's the way I think about it.
Yeah, and that's a great way to look at it. It's a great way to adapt and thrive, as you said. Do you think that's a lot about kind of recommitting to lifelong learning?
I think lifelong learning, that's just our new state, right? I mean, you've got to stay a student. So I always say, if there's been anything that I could point back to in my career that I think, has helped give me advantage, it's my commitment to learning. I'm constantly in the learning lane, and this is a moment that requires it of us. I mean, it demands it of us. So I would say absolutely stay a student. Learning agility, staying in the learning lane is critical right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's also making the adjustment to what the new reality is in other worlds. So in Canada, and I'm sure it's the same in the States, our mortgage brokers compete especially with the banks. And the banks are coming up with new technologies, and it's better and easier for them to get a one-click mortgage done. And mortgage brokers are all about advice. It's the same in the financial advisor world. You've got your robo advisors, but your big thing is get advice if you want to talk to a real person. It's funny, you have a presentation on that, on brand experience and how to kind of out-brand that person down the street who can maybe do it a little easier. Maybe the customer can go there just a click away. And you talk about being remarkable, but you also talk about the human attention span, and you give a great example about the goldfish. But I talk a little bit about that.
Partially from a sales perspective, I always say, you want to be getting referred and you want to be getting found. I mean, that's the whole reason you build a personal branding and create content. And that really is your business. I mean, you've got, if you're not getting referred or you're not getting found, then you're relying on kind of this antiquated interruption-based sales techniques, go-to-market strategy, and you're competing with everyone. So literally, I always say every customer relationship needs to produce the next 2 customer relationships. And that's the whole point about being remarkable consistently. You give clients a little bit more than they expect at every single touch point, and watch what happens next. They're going to tell other people about you. Look at this relationship. You and I met how long ago?
10 years ago.
10 years ago, and you remembered the experience, and I was top of mind when you had a need, and so you reached out. And that's true for any business. You know, did you deliver above and beyond expectations? And so after every sales call, every engagement with a customer, we audit that engagement. What did we learn? What can we do differently to improve the experience next time? What worked really well that we want to repeat? Every single day, audit yourself. That's how you get better. So you've got to be getting referred, right? Be remarkable, turn those relationships into 3 relationships. And then the second thing is getting found. That's the whole content marketing strategy. It's why we make videos, publish a blog, write ebooks, produce white papers, contribute content on LinkedIn. You know, I want to create some credibility around my expertise. You know, if you're in the advice or the expertise business, you need to create some credibility and community around that. And that ultimately elevates your brand and expands your opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. My favorite line from, it might have even been 10 years ago, or maybe saw it on the video on the website, but I remember you saying, being remarkable is the ability to be remarked upon. Is that your quote on that?
Worthy of being remarked upon, right? So good, so memorable that 10 years later, I'm reaching out.
That's right.
That's
exactly.
the idea.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And absolutely. And I think that's great. And I think that's a really big thing for all brokers of any tenure. You know, this is the time to be remarkable in what you do, to be remembered in what you do. There is an easier way to click and get a mortgage, but maybe, you know, how you dealt with deferred payments and dealt with refinances and stuff, it makes you worthy of being remarked upon. And that allows you to be remarkable, and that allows you to grow. And so there's opportunity to grow in this type of situation.
You can grow in any economy, and relationships and referrals drive your business. So I'd be really thinking through, how can I improve in those areas? And for us, I mean, you know, from a referral perspective, you know, we earn the right to ask for referrals, then we ask. And I think that's a big part of your business too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In one of your presentations, you talk a little bit about unleashing your inner superhero. And if you go to ryanestis.com, you can actually see an activity that Ryan does with one of his audiences about, you know, standing strong and putting out the physiology into how you come at this business mentally. Talk a little bit about that concept. It clearly worked for that audience. They were all really into it. And sort of maybe compare it to this time. I mean, how do you do that when we're all
look, I think it's important. You know, that's the whole mind-body connection research, and I'm big into routines and rituals. So, you know, for me, it's energy, right? I need to maintain energy levels, and there's challenges with regard to this time. You know, we're isolated, we're in our home offices. So to maintain my energy level, I know there are some things that I have to be doing. This starts the night before. My pre-bed routine. Am I getting enough sleep at night? Am I staying hydrated? You know, am I working out? I mean, all the health clubs and gyms are closed. So how do I keep my body fit? And how do I stay strong? And so all of those things, and taking breaks, getting outside, taking a walk. I mean, so I have a lot of routine around that. I'm very hyper aware of my schedule right now. So during this time, I can maintain my energy and focus. And yeah, the whole superhero exercise. It's like, you know, if I get into a little slump or I get overwhelmed, it's just being aware of my body. It's like my shoulders back, chin up, deep breath, energy on point, and be ready to engage. And part of selling and relationship building online, you want to notice your energy and kind of pay attention to how you communicate into the camera. I just think those things are hyper important right now if we want to transfer belief and have an impact on our customer relationships. So, for me, I'm used to getting some of that energy live. So this has been a big shift and a challenge for someone that does a lot of keynote speaking to be doing it all through a camera. So, but I still pay attention to those things. And I do think routines and rituals so important right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And probably one of the bigger things that's most important, we talk about it all the time, is what we want to be. Our slogan is brokers helping brokers. Is to be in the business of people. And part of that Pouring Happiness video is all about that. You talk about Lily, who's served you in the airport at Christmas time, And why is that so important? Like, what is it, because you remember her so well that you think that that is so important? I mean, you clearly operate your business that way as well. What made you shift to that? Like, how impactful was that experience with Lily?
Yeah, I mean, it was incredibly impactful, because you realize there was such a humanity to that exchange in that moment. But there were also some realizations, and that's part of my mantras. Instead of focusing on how you can be successful, think about how you can be helpful. And one of the big secrets inside of Lily is, who's the happiest person every day? The helper, her, right? It works for her. Those experiences, those exchanges, they're a trigger that fill her heart up with joy. So she gets these unique moments of human connection. And I think there's something pretty profound and beautiful about that. So it's this really idea, and we talk about this in our business, from having evolved. I think in the beginning, we had a lot to prove. We started a business and it was kitchen table and we wanted to be successful and we're out to prove to the world that we mattered and our content was good and we belonged and we wanted to get events and, close deals and the whole thing. And today, my emphasis and my purpose and why I'm doing it is really more about something to give. And I think if you can cross that divide from something to prove to something to give and really focus on, how can I serve? How can I help? Where can I contribute? Where can I add value? How am I going to be remembered by the people I worked with today? That the performance and the profitability will take care of itself. Put people first.
Absolutely. That's a great message. And that comes to kind of the end of our interview here, but I do want to kind of put it out to you, did you have any extra thoughts or anything that or any messages toward brokers who might be kind of struggling? Like, did I make the right choice here, or should I stay in this, or whatever? Any final thoughts on that kind of thing?
Yeah, those moments of overwhelm, anxiety, struggle, they're all normal. And that's what it's supposed to feel like when you start something new. The start of something new brings the hope of something great, but there isn't going to be something great without struggle and sacrifice and setbacks and missteps and anxiety and overwhelm. And I will tell you this, when I started my business in the Great Recession, there were multiple nights where I would wake up in a cold sweat at 3 a.m. And I would think, okay, as soon as the sun comes up, I'm going to call my boss and beg for my old job back because this is too hard and it's too overwhelming. That was the best phone call that I never made. And I haven't looked back since. And I know that this is another moment of pause and another challenge that I have to persevere and move through. But I will tell you this, there will be another side to this moment. And when it gets hard, remember that we can do hard things. And I think I meant what I said. I just think now is that there's an opportunity and there's an opportunity to grow into this. And I hope everybody on the call chooses growth.
I think they will. And I think after hearing your messages, which were awesome as always, they'll take some great things from this and be able to persevere through all of this. So we want to thank you as an industry, as a company, obviously, and myself personally, who has seen you speak live too. Thank you so much for doing this and doing this for us. And I know it's going to help out a lot of people. So I really, really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Chris. I enjoyed the conversation. It was great to reconnect after a decade, man.
This is an exciting time to be sitting here. It's a defining moment in your journey. And you are very prepared to win in the marketplace. In fact, I'll ask, how many of you feel more prepared right now than you did a few days ago before you got to Vegas to win? How many of you feel more prepared? That looks like 99.9%. Give it up. Hell of a conference. Take massive action. Take bold, decisive, aggressive action coming out of this conference. That's what creates breakthroughs, and more specifically, that's what creates breakthroughs in your client relationships.